Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inspirational Journeys Through Life with Straight Talk with Nolan. I have a journey, you have a journey. But how many of us actually share our journeys out there to help inspire other people? So I am your host, Nolan Pillay, and today it's my pleasure and my honor to have a father and a daughter on the show today. So Mark Ryall, who I'll read his bio in a short bit, and Stephanie as well. They have a fantastic story that attracted me to them. And we'll talk about that in Mark's book that just came out, which is called Run Daughter, Run Father. And I think this is such a key thing that we need in the world today, because when you think about parents connecting with their children, how many of them actually do it out there? Not many, right? And this is why I'm so attracted to the story. So let's get into it. So Mark basically recently retired from teaching economics at Hillfield Stratton College in Hamilton, Ontario. His first love in coaching was always cross-country running, a sport which he felt made students stronger mentally and physically, and which promoted teamwork and mutual support. I gotta agree with that totally. The speculative fiction Age Decoders is Mark's first novel. He wrote it to educate himself and the world about the imminent tsunami of genetic engineering, CRISPR, like technology, will impact humans in physical and psychological ways, thus fundamentally affecting what it means to be human. Of course, we all could do it that, right? Humanity really needs to be restored. The story peers 100 to 200 years into the future, allowing the readers to critically imagine this new scientific frontier. Mark has also just published his second book, Run Daughter, Run Father, which we are going to talk about a lot in today's call. It provides stories, anecdotes, and scientific advice on how running and racing. It also highlights the training adventures of him and his daughter, Stephanie, whom Mark coached and ran with. And I'm sure at this point, Stephanie is actually beating Mark, but we'll get into that a little later as well. The insights are targeted at younger and older age group competitors. Mark also competes in triathlons and represented Canada in the 2019 World Age Group Championships in Switzerland. He also recently qualified for the World Age Group Championships in Spain in 2023. So Mark, best of wishes for that as well. As hobbies, Mark enjoys acrylic art and snooker. So whenever I'm in your area, we're going to play a game of snooker for sure. His education includes BSc, MBA, and PhD from the University of Toronto. So let's get right into. So Mark, thank you so much for that bio. I'm really inspired by your journey. And at this point, I'd like Stephanie just to take a few minutes to share a bit more about yourself, Stephanie.
Sure. Yeah, so I have not written any books, and I'm not like my dad, and I'm not represented Team Canada like him. So he's more accomplished on that front. But I've been running since, about 10 years old. And I just finished up my eligibility in the university cross-country system at Western University. I'm currently in medical school at Western, so I'm in my third year right now. And yeah, I just, I've been interested in a bunch of sports throughout my life so far. I played hockey, soccer, but running is definitely my main passion, and mostly focused on track and field cross country, but I've dabbled in some longer ultra marathon races as well. So,
oh wow! So
that's pretty much me. Yeah,
that's awesome, Stephanie. Thanks for sharing. So, what would you reckon would you be better at on the road, ultra marathons, or track and field?
Oh, okay. So I think I've never actually done a road marathon before. I've done some trail races that were longer than a marathon. But I would love to do like a real road marathon eventually. And I think I'll be good at that just because I've always been better at the longer distances. But I'd like to do a classic marathon eventually.
Wow. Well, I'd like to invite you to South Africa when you get the chance. We have a marathon here, which is 88 kilometers. That's called the Comrades Marathon. So when you have a chance, just research it. It's one of the most grueling marathons ever.
Yeah, that one is on my bucket list for sure. I've read a lot about it.
Oh, wow.
And very competitive. Yeah.
It is. So whenever you're in South Africa, just hook up with me. and I'll guide you. I'll even take you around touring the place as well.
Awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that, Stephanie. Really grateful for that. So Mark, back to you now. I mean, tell me more about what inspired you to write the book, Run Daughter, Run Father.
Yeah, well, running's a big part of my life too. And, but the reason it is because, well, in chapter 1 of the book, I talk about this. When Stephanie was quite young, I believe she was 8, she herself showed a desire to run. She wanted to run around the block, time herself. And they didn't come from my wife or I. She just sort of had this innate burning desire to try that sport. So, but she was pretty young. But that occurrence and me having to join her on jogs just to sort of accompany her changed my life in a very positive way. So the next 17 years, I've gotten into running and now triathloning and also coaching, and got to support my daughter, watch her run, but also be one myself. And we even trained together. So there was a big sharing, very positive thing. And we learned a lot along the way. And I just thought it'd be great to share that with the world of other athletes, that story.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to get my hands on this book as well and read it as well. Because how many people write a book out there about the actual training with their daughter or the children, right? Not many of them.
Yeah, and it's a little weird because, and I don't know what Stephanie would think of this, is it's personal, right? So it's biographical. So you're putting yourself out there a bit, which I never thought I'd be writing anything biographical. We're not famous people, but I think we do have lots of funny stories and informative stories that would be helpful and fun to share with other people. So
absolutely. So do you think so this is really going to inspire other parents out there to take an active role in whatever sport their kids are playing and be more involved, like you and Stephanie have done, right?
Yeah, and maybe Stephanie can talk to this. Having an active role is good, but there are things that parents must be also careful about. I don't know if you want to add to that stuff. The parenting role.
Yeah, like you want to make sure that it's not the parent driving kind of the kid to push in sport. It should come from like the child. So, and I always felt like that. In fact, like my dad and I like frequently would argue about how much I should be doing. I always wanted to like push harder and do more workouts, run higher mileage, but he was like really good at holding me back. And then I think, you know, secondary to that, like a lot of people can become burnt out. And because he kind of was very cautious with me, I never became burnt out. I never like felt like I resented the sport. So I've continued and yeah, continued to this day with it.
I think that's really impressive coaching from Mark's side as well, right? From your dad's side, because you know, about burnout as well. There's so many runners out there that burn out at a very early age because they tend to push harder even from school, right? From primary school all the way. And when they reach their 30s, then they tend to burn out. You see it in other sports like football as well, right? Footballers, they retire at the age of 35 max, I would think, as well. So, wow. So, I mean, what were some of your contributions to the book, Stephanie?
So for actual writing, my dad wrote it all. I helped with editing, and I had some suggestions about like what stories to put in, and kind of some general editing recommendations. Mostly it was him, and I guess I just provided, you know, the daughter role growing up. But I wrote the foreword as well for the book.
Yeah. Yeah. She provided the fodder for the book, you know, the experiences, which is really, that's the most important thing, let's face it, right? And then I was excited to craft it. But yeah, she helped so much with the editing. And we talked for a couple of years as I was crafting it and said, you know, should we put this in, put that in? And getting photographs and things like that, she was very helpful with too. And I love the foreword that she wrote. It's only 2 pages, but it just strikes right to the heart of the issue. She talks about how he locked horns and she was a hard-headed young lady, and like we really did lock horns on some of the, even just right down to individual workouts. So you want to do another interval? No, you've done enough intervals. You're going to, hurt yourself or whatever. Or do this in 90 seconds. And she come cruising in 80 seconds. And I'm trying to slow her down, slow down, slow down. And she's not listening, right? She comes. So there was a lot of that, but she's very honest and forward. And it's really nice to see that right up front in the book.
And I'm sure you didn't want her to slow down, Mark, because you were getting tired as well, right?
Oh yeah, I'm the one who burnt out in all this. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was inspired though, and early on, we did do some workouts together. But by the time she was about 13 or 14, and started getting very accomplished, and even getting some invitations to some of the big American races within a year of that, like the New Balance Indoors race in New York, and the what's the one in Philadelphia, the Penn Relays in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Those were two. Once that started happening, I could see how fast she was, and then I could also see trying to run with her. And I was starting to get hitting the age of 50 by that point. So she was getting faster. I was getting slower. And there was a point there, I think, when she was about 14 and a half, where I could just see I was getting left in the dust. Right? But and now I don't even think of running with her. I think of maybe jumping on a bike. That's my only option now, or maybe even an e-bike.
Yeah. Just coach her from there.
Yeah, that's right.
Good idea. Well, that's it with running as well, right? It does take a knock. I did quite a bit of running in my life early on as well. And I felt that I always struggled with my knees. My knees used to really, really keep. And that's why I preferred the uphill to downhill runs as well, because I felt I could climb much more better. And my momentum was much more strong on an uphill than downhill as well.
Yes.
And many runners may think that an uphill is, oh no, you're crazy, man. Who wants to run uphills? Everyone wants to run downhills, but it's not so. It has its benefits as well, and has its negatives as well.
Yeah, Stephanie,
I absolutely agree.
Steph, I don't know if you want to share that experience you just recently had about downhill or an uphill to mountain.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in about that. I went to so this is my last summer off before I have to, work continuously for the rest of my life. So I went to Squamish, British Columbia, just outside of Vancouver. And it's like, there's beautiful mountains there. And I definitely the going down the mountains just ruined my knees this summer. I got some patellofemoral pain syndrome, and I was out for about a month, but yeah, some big 2,000 meter descents were definitely the tough part. Going up was the easy part for sure.
No, absolutely. I can imagine, because you kind of have to hold brakes all the time as well, right? And that's the damaging factor for it.
Yeah.
So you see, you have contributed in a big way in the book as well, Stephanie, because I'm sure all of this your dad has detailed in there for the world to know about it. So, Mark, tell me, what differentiates this book in a way, right? You want the world to know the story about you and Stephanie, dad and daughter.
Yeah. I'm sure I think that one of the big targets of this book, thinking who might read it, which listeners might be interested, is that younger and older runners. So a lot of books are written by famous runners. We all know their names. We want to know more about them. That's fine. But this book is about age group runners, medium older runners like myself, or younger runners like Stephanie was younger, is now 25. But so that's a bit of a different can of worms. But those runners, the younger and older ones, have lots of challenges and lots of goals of their own, and they may not be world class, but some of them are very competitive, and others want to get better and better. And so those are the voices that we're lending with this book.
Okay, cool. And I'm sure throughout this journey, where you guys trained together and ran together, you coached Stephanie, etc., there must have been some low points or even some obstacles that you had to cross, right? Because we face obstacles so often in our lives. I'm sure the listeners would be very, very keen to know or understand, what those obstacles were and how you overcame them. How you both overcame them, more importantly.
Sure. Steph, do you want to start on that? Any obstacles?
Yeah, I mean, so kind of day to day, the obstacles are that you don't have a typical coach athlete relationship. And we kind of touched on this already. Like myself as an athlete would feel like I have more say, or I could push back more, you know, to my dad versus like, say, a typical athlete and coach. So that and then like you live with your coach too. So if you got heated like at a workout or something because you disagreed on something, that stays, and you live together too. So it you have this kind of strange spectrum of coach athlete father daughter relationship that you kind of have to balance. And sometimes there were like times when we had like big arguments, and then that those are definitely obstacles that you face. And then also I think like you feel like maybe like you want to, oh sorry, I feel like I'm getting emotional about this.
Go ahead.
Like you want to you don't want to let your dad down. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
No,
you take over.
I'll take the baton for a second. Yeah, and it was hard for both sides because it gets sort of intense. You know, you've got like I myself, I had the father hat on, the coach hat, and I was, sometimes things didn't go so well. Like Stephanie, I think when she was about 14, we discovered she had exercise-induced asthma, which started impacting some of her races. She just couldn't breathe well, depending on if it was humid or even like crisp, cool air, would sometimes make it hard for her to breathe in the stress of a race. So she found out at the age of 14. We went down, I mentioned the Penn Relays. We went down there. I don't know, how old were you, Steph? Was it 15 or?
I think it was grade 10, so 15.
Yeah. And that's a big race. I mean, Hannah DeBalsey was there. She was the top runner in the United States. We knew a lot of the girls from reading about them on Let's Run and all the websites. And Steph was running shoulder to shoulder with them. And we were so excited. I drove down with her and we're all pumped up. And unfortunately, our wife was working, so she couldn't make the trip with us. But anyway, we went down, and in the race, unfortunately, she had an asthma attack. So she had to just sort of shut it down and jog the second half. And so it was a long drive back for both of us. And I remember like we were both just so distraught. And like I was sharing her challenge there. But in the car ride back, I think we analyzed it for a while, but at some point as her coach, I say, don't be a coach. Don't analyze it. Don't worry about the race. Just try to be a good father and try to have fun and tell silly jokes. I think we played some word games and listened to some music. Just let's so that's where my father cap, I had to wear that full-fledged and just forget about the coaching cap then. So, and I think, I don't know if you want to add anything to that story, Steph.
Still just trying to recover here. No, nothing to add there. That was a good recap of that.
Okay.
And
yeah, cool. But so Mark, you, I mean, as a father, you had to switch very often from coach to dad as well, right? So I have a adult daughter as well, and I know at times, I feel, and not particularly well, we actually do a walk and a run together, and sometimes I feel I pushed him as well. But we always like would butt heads kind of thing. So yeah. Imagine as a coach, it's a different thing, right? Because you're handling your coaching much more professionally as well. So that relationship stays the one side. And when you get home, you're living in the same house, then it's the father-daughter relationship as well.
Exactly, yeah. So it can be challenging, but it also can be super rewarding. And I mean, I wouldn't be writing this book if that hadn't happened. So I think it's incredible. And I'm glad I shared it with my daughter and sharing it with the world now. And so we learned a lot of lessons along the way. And there's a lot of it involved youth running. And I think I'd like to ask Steph to expand on that. Mm-hmm. The idea of, what should a runner do? How young should they be? How hard should they push themselves? And how do runners develop? And you can even talk about other sports, Stephanie, but running is in particular, how do people develop on that front?
And I think that's
running. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Stephanie. I think that's quite an important part because a lot of the listeners are of the youth age group as well. So
right.
It's quite important for them to understand it from your point of view, because it's important because we know sport helps keep many of the kids or the youth away from the wrong habits as well. So it's such a vital thing that we need to install in our youth now. And you're right, Mark, it's irrespective of what sport it is.
Yeah. So Steph, Steph, can you give us your thoughts on athletic development for runners?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, running is a bit unique in that it's definitely a late development sport. And you can tell that just kind of some recent events that have happened. Eliud Kipchoge just set the world record marathon at age 37. So there's no, it's good if people are involved at a young age, and as long as they're, managed correctly, not pushed too hard because you don't want to burn out. But there's you have so much time, especially compared to other sports like say gymnastics where you peak at 16. You have time to develop and into your 20s and your 30s as well, to be even a world-class runner. So it's definitely important to stay cautious and don't burn out early, because most you can get pretty fast at 15, 16, but you're going to be way faster at 25 to 30 and even past that. So if you can stay injury free and liking the sport or loving the sport still, and passionate about it, you're definitely going to do way better in your adult years.
So the experience builds up, it carries on building up all the time, and it allows you to be more disciplined as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, your aerobic potential just continues to increase for much longer than, past your teen years for sure. So, and then you become much better at managing with age, like you said, the discipline that's required for, say, the marathon where you have to run. The top runners are running 100 miles a week. So you need to have strong bones, strong muscles. You have to be well conditioned to handle that, and that's something that develops over a long period of time, for sure.
So what would you say to someone who wants to get into running, but they kind of got this barrier that's blocking them, right? They're really good at what they do, but they're a bit nervous or scared about it. What type of advice would you give to people out there that really want to get into it?
Steph, you want to take that?
Yeah, that's it's an interesting question. I think running is one of those sports that a lot of people don't like initially. They're scared of, the knee pain, getting, knee injuries, or I think, staying a gradual buildup is key so that you don't, overload kind of your joints or develop any injuries. So, but yeah, you have to get to the point where going for an easy run is very enjoyable, I think. And that'll come eventually if you run enough. But a lot of people at the start, just going out for a run is quite difficult and hard, and you're super tired. But once you get to the point where that experience is enjoyable, you're going to get hooked on running forever.
Running is sort of in a lot of schools, running is sort of used as a punishment, right? Oh, you're bad. Go do 4 laps, right? And the football team and others may not like that part of it. Do 4 laps, everyone, or 8 laps. Bad practice. So, you have to, like Steph says, it takes a while to get comfortable with running and for your body to sort of get at ease with it and to almost get into a steady state mantra with it where you're in rhythm and it feels natural. That can take a few weeks or even a few months, but then you do reach a point, if you're just patient, where if you can't run, then it starts. You notice it. Then you miss that run, and when you get to the point where you miss a run, or you don't have to run every day, but you know what I mean. Say you can't run for some reason, all of a sudden, that's when you become a runner, really. It's so positive.
So staying consistent, I would think to the listeners, be consistent. And if running is your passion and you feel you want to do exceptionally well, you can do it, right? You just have to take that step, get out of bed at 5 a.m. I'm not sure what times you guys were training, but I know a lot of runners start up very early in the morning to avoid the heat, etc. And then go out and just do it, right? I would think.
Yeah, I'm a night runner now. I feel faster at nighttime. So anything that makes me feel faster. But in the heat, I like to run at night. I don't run in the morning, but it's the same effect. You get the sun's down and it's cooler. And Steph, what about you? You do afternoon, evenings?
Yeah, I'm not a morning person, so I do not get up early for runs. But yeah, I'm generally like an afternoon, as long as it's not too hot. Just go when it's nicest out, when the sun is shining, enjoy it. Yeah, I like to go on trails, so that's definitely something that's better done in the daytime. I wouldn't recommend kind of twisting your ankle in the night on some route trail, but yeah.
One thing if I could add that does come up in my book, Run Daughter, Run Father, is this discussion about the psychology, like the mental effect of running, which we're talking about right now, the positive effect, right? So I have a section where I talk about meditation and even psychological health, like mental health. And it's been, scientists have tried to do studies where they prove that running is good for mental health, like it prevents depression and all. They try to, but it's always like a correlation study. It's never like proof. It's just, runners seem to be less depressed and so on. So, but I always say I could design an experiment where you can prove it. Just take away the running from a bunch of runners and see how they feel about it. And you're gonna find out they go downhill psychologically. They don't like it. I want to ask Stephanie, and Stephanie, you can try answering this question right now. How do you feel when you have a day without a run? Remember that your answer to that?
I know my answer. It involves a swear word. I don't know if I can swear on this podcast, but I just become a huge bitch. Like I'm very edgy and anxious, and so I definitely do not like missing my daily run. Yeah.
It's like it's like your daily food, right? It's daily energy. Mm-hmm. It's a daily energy source. Like, for example, my daily energy would be also the running, but I also do meditation. If I don't go out for the run, I do feel like tired and lethargic, etc. Like your day is not fulfilled or not completed. Mm-hmm. So that comes with consistency and creating this habit that you need to do it every single day as well, right? And try not to. What about when I know in Ontario it gets very cold as well, right? Do you guys go out when it's cold?
Yes.
Yep.
And the good thing about cold is you can control to a certain extent how warm you are. Like when it's too warm, it's hard to control that heat, right? But when it's cold, you can bundle up and prepare yourself and make your body feel right to the point where you can put a balaclava over your face, so just your eyes are poking through, or you can have several layers on. You can even have like your shoes designed so that there's 2 or 3 layers of socks in there, so even your feet don't get cold. And that, so you can actually make yourself warm on the coldest of days. So I find it challenging preparing, but actually quite good doing it. I feel great afterwards on those runs. I don't know about you, Steph.
Yeah. The only thing that's really annoying about the wintertime is the ice. That's you don't want to slip, but besides like a really icy day that might warrant a treadmill run, I will never go on the treadmill. I will always choose outside.
I agree. I can't last 5 minutes on a treadmill. I don't know. I just can't do it. So
I'm the same way. Yeah.
I need a dog chasing me or a car trying to run me over to keep things exciting.
Absolutely. I don't like the treadmill because it's like so boring. You're looking at the same spot over and over, and you're just running. Yeah. On the outdoors, you're going to meet so many different people as well. So it's much more exciting than just working out. But I like the cold day workouts as well, because you're right, you burn more on a cold day, right? and you're not just burning up as well, you're burning more calories at the same time. So that's quite nice as well. And I'm sure it would affect your breathing at some point, right? Because cold weather would mean that you just have to breathe through your nostril.
I don't know about you, Steph, but I breathe right through my mouth. You'll get a little bit of a cold sensation going down the throat, but by the time it's close to the lungs, there's no discomfort.
I am also a mouth breather. I don't breathe through my nose either, but I know some people use that technique.
Like breathing through your nose and breathe out through your nose. A lot of people are talking about that technique now as well.
Okay. Yeah.
I've been trying it recently as well, and I see it is improving my breathing, because my lungs were damaged because of COVID, and I find that the technique is really helping. What I'm finding is when I breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, I dry up very easily.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll give it a try too. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
It's something that I know Wim Hof speaks about it very often as well.
Yeah, so one lovely thing about being in Canada, we get these varied weather conditions, and in the book I talk about snow runs we did where when Steph was younger, we would do silly things like jump in snowbanks and do snow angels on the front lawn after the run, and we'd come in with snow all over us, and my wife would say, "What were you guys doing? I thought you were just running." And we had these little smirks on our faces. But so you have to embrace the weather and go with it. There was a snow run I did in Toronto. I went right down Yonge Street, the main avenue in Toronto, which would usually be bustling with traffic and traffic lights and people. And I had the whole street to myself because it was a snowstorm and nobody was out there. And I just went right down the street. You could see just me and my footprints. And that's because of the snow. I love that. I remember that run. It was great.
Well, I'm sure the listeners would love to hear some humorous moments, some funny moments that, you guys have been running for years now together, right? I'm sure there's tons of these happy moments or funny moments as well. So maybe perhaps share a few with us.
Want to take that, Steph, to start?
Steph.
I've got one, but do you want
you go ahead while I think of some.
Okay, yeah, I was trying to teach Stephanie how to relax when you're under the stress of a run, when you're getting tired. Try to relax. Don't stiffen up and tighten up. So this was when she was like 10 or 11 years old. So we had this little circuit next to our house. And at the last part of the circuit, she'd be tired coming up the hill. And there was a straightaway. And I said I basically ordered her. I said, I want you smiling for that last 100 meters, no matter how much pain you're in. So she'd come in with this like fake smile on her face, but you could tell she's. And my neighbor, our neighbor who knew all about us, said to her, "What kind of a workout is she doing here, Mark?" Because he saw her come in with this weird smile pasted on her. I said, "She's learning how to enjoy pain." That's what she's. So.
I was enjoying it. It's just hard to do it, actually showing it on your face. Yeah. But I think you did that because the famous runner Haile Selassie always kind of looked like he was smiling a bit, just the way his face was at the end of races. So
yeah, he was amazing.
Lesson.
And Des Linden, what's her last name now?
Des Linden.
Yeah, she from the United States. She won the Boston Marathon. She had that famous phrase. She said, "When you're running a race, you have to relax and let the run come out of you." I love that. Just relax and let the run come out of you. Don't force it. Yeah, that's what we were trying to learn. Hey, Steph, you're a pretty good relaxed runner. You do a good job of that. So sorry, Steph, you've got a funny story?
Oh yeah, I think one of my first cross country races, or maybe this was when I was quite young, like grade 3 or and I was doing pretty well. I hadn't really run before, and I think it was one of the Toronto races. I think the first there was a series of 3 races for the Toronto City Championships that you had to qualify for each one, and I was winning the first race and had actually passed the rabbit. Like that was supposed to be leading the runners. And so I went off course for about almost, I think, 500 meters off course before I had to come back. And then I was in about 40th place at that point. I remember I was so distraught. I was crying and you were there, like, just kick down these girls. Like, you have about 500 meters left.
Yeah, what did you have to finish?
I had to come like top 20 to
get to the next race.
To get to the next race, but
But
I just remember I was so angry, and you thought it was the funniest situation. I ended up getting the spot to go to the next round.
And I remember talking to Stephanie afterwards. She was in tears and upset because she was finished 17th or something. She was expecting to win the race, right? But she did qualify. You feel about it? How do you think the rabbit feels being passed by somebody in grade 3? So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and then that was the only year probably because I had gone 16th, and then the second race I was second, and then the next race, which was actually the Toronto final. So I was supposed to be more competitive each year, and then I won the last one. So usually the only time someone got better.
Yeah.
Each race, a better place each race, but that was like one of my first years of running. You helped me there, like just kind of gain some perspective. It's okay to just, have a bad race or something goes wrong in the race. Just keep on going to the finish and it'll be okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. See, so your dad's been a fantastic coach to you, right? Always like edging you on, always pushing you forward, and no matter what the result is, you just keep going, right?
Yeah, but also helping like not be so serious all the time.
Yeah.
So.
Because I guess it has a lot to do, and especially at a very competitive level, it has a lot to do with your mindset as well, right? How you control it, how you actually prepare for the initial race and at the end as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got to take a lot out of you as well.
Yeah, there were several, in terms of like the preparation for a race. I mean, things happen before a race. We had one race in New York City that we were flying in on the day of, and our flight was delayed, and we got there maybe 20 minutes before my race was supposed to start.
Yeah.
And so the whole time you're just trying to calm me down. And I think I was grade 10 at this point.
Yes.
But ironically, the race ended up being about 5 hours late.
Yeah, that's right. They delayed it 5 hours.
They completely messed up the schedule, but yeah, he's been quite good at just kind of keeping me calm before races. I used to deal with a lot of nerves beforehand, and now I think I'm probably one of the most calm people before races. I generally, compared to some of my teammates, I'm pretty relaxed, and I think that's just kind of the philosophy that he's instilled over the years.
Yeah, that's awesome, and especially being calm. Nerves can wreck a person. It can mess up your race. It can do so many things to you as well. So the best is to be calm and just trust in the universe to allow them to delay it by 5 hours like they did.
Yeah, and that worked out pretty well because I remember while Steph was waiting, she, was it Erin Finn who talked to you? Erin Finn was one of the top runners in the United States. I think she finished 30th or even better in the World Cross Country Championships 2 weeks after this event. So where Erin met Stephanie just waiting there and started chatting with her. And that was really cool to be able to have a conversation with Erin, and that helped pass the time a bit.
Yeah, I was a huge fan, and probably wouldn't have, I wouldn't have bumped into her if we had come, early or something. You never know.
And then Steph ran a fantastic race. She ran a 17:29 5K, and at that age, that's pretty fast. That's pretty good inside that hot, humid armory in New York. So, I was pretty impressed, and she was really happy with that result.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So Stephanie, I mean, before we go on to a bit of tips and advice for the listeners out there, I'm very interested to know from you, I mean, from your competitors, how was the conversations? Did you guys actually chat? Were your friends, or was there a lot of what's the right word, kind of like, was there a bit of jealousy amongst the runners, or how did you, especially with the top runners that you were involved with, the people you were meeting whenever you went out?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty close-knit community. You see kind of the same faces at a lot of races. And I think generally I'm friends with a lot of people that I compete against. It's because running is like kind of, I mean, you are competing against other people in races and you want to win, you want to beat them, but I mean, most of running, especially when you're kind of growing up and just trying to focus on improving, it's against yourself, really. So I've generally found that people are super nice in the running community and very supportive of each other. And there's not really, I've never had any animosity with any of my competitors. I'm pretty good friends with a lot of them. And they're, yeah, some of my closest friends today are people that I trained with or raced against. Yeah.
Well said. You know, that's so well said, because no matter what the outcome of the race is, everyone is still a winner because they took the initiative to get out there and go for a run or take part in a competition as well. So of course, there can only be one winner, but you know, everyone is winners in the way we see it. And that's what we need to encourage a lot of the listeners to do, is no matter what you do in life, be it a sport or become an entrepreneur, etc., you're still a winner because you're taking action towards something that you like, something that is allowing you to live a purposeful life as well.
That's right. That topic comes up in my book, where I talk about the term champion, and I love this. I didn't know it, but when I researched it, the term champion comes from the Latin campion, which means warrior. It doesn't come from winner. It's someone who's fighting for a cause, whether it's running for a school or a club or just for their own ambitions. So the campion, the champion, is, like you say, it's the people themselves, not the winners. It has nothing to do with getting a medal or first place or going on the podium here. So when I coach cross country, I often said the champions, you're all champions. You're the fourth runner is the champion, the one who gets across the finish line just as much as the top runner. And all the other runners trying to do the same. They're all champions, and people raising money for charities and running. They're champions too, right? Think of the good causes they're supporting. And Terry Fox, the Canadian, I don't know if you've heard of him, though. He did the cancer. He's got the cancer fund now. He died of cancer, but he started this movement, the Terry Fox movement, for raising funds for cancer. And he died when he was, I don't know, 22 or 23, trying to run across Canada. He didn't make it, but he was a champion. He didn't even finish his run. He didn't get to the end. So he's one of the most amazing champions I've ever seen, Terry Fox. Absolutely. And I'm getting emotional too, because I can't think of a better example of someone who failed to finish their race and did such an amazing impact. He's raised almost $1 billion now across the world for cancer research, the Canadian Terry Fox. So
that's amazing. See, that's a humanitarian at heart as well. Absolutely amazing. Wow. So I know we're running short of time as well. So do you want to share some tips or training advice or anything for the listeners out there? We'll start with you, Mark.
Oh, Dad, this is for you. You're the coach.
Well, there's a couple of chapters where I talk about specific training things, like doing. Well, I'm a big fan of fartlek training, which is sort of like intervals, but a little less structured, where you might go like a 10 or 15K run, and in there you have like several sections of, for a few minutes or a couple of minutes, or maybe 500 meters up to a kilometer, where you're going pretty hard, and then you just relax for a while and get your heartbeat back down again. Then you go hard again, and you have like 5 or 6 of these fartlek sections in there. So I describe workouts like that, which are used by millions of runners across the world. But I also talk about, though, and I think this is important, not becoming a slave to any running regimen. Like I think Peter Coe, Sebastian Coe's father, Peter Coe, wrote a book called Winning Running. It's an excellent book because he coached his son. And he said in there, the best programs are the ones that are holistic. They consider the entire athlete. And what I mean by that is you've got people with different needs, different schedules, different goals, and you can't just impose one training regimen, one coach's philosophy or whatever on all people. You have to be. So my main message in the book is, do these things, experiment with these things, and work with coaches, but don't. You are an individual, and so you have to work with all those other people, but they have to respect you as a whole person, and that's very, very important, I think.
Wow. And be unique as well, right? Respect your body. At times when you feel that you're tiring up or something like that, You listen to your body rather.
Yeah, and Haile Selassie said that too. The great Ethiopian writer said that he listens to his body before he listens to any coaches, and I believe he was coached by the great Joss Hurwitz, his agent too. But he said, I listen to my body first. Steph, do you have any training tips in general or specific?
Specific training tips? I mean, I think you kind of touched on this. Generally, running training is not that like complicated. I don't think, like, if you go out and do kind of a couple faster workouts a week, have a longer run where you kind of challenge your aerobic system more, and then supplement with easy runs or cross training depending on what mileage level you're at, you're going to improve. I mean, yeah, some people will say like, oh, you have to do like this specific workout, but generally, I don't know, if you're hitting on all the different systems, you know, your speed, your anaerobic, your aerobic systems, like you'll probably improve. And the most important thing is not getting injured. So the listening to your body thing is the consistent. Yeah, like we touched on this, consistency is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, listen to your body.
Absolutely. So you know, Mark, you're speaking about fartlekking as well, because we do the pole to pole. So run fast to the pole and fast again, slow jog, just to pick your heart rate up and see how fast it comes down, because that determines your fitness, right?
How far apart are those poles approximately? You know,
it's about 200 meters, I would think.
Okay, yeah, and you can even add it out where you go like one pole and then go 2 poles and then let's go 3 poles.
Yeah,
and slow down and then back down to 2 poles. We used to do stuff like that too, where you increase the distances and decrease them again as you come down. So yeah, it's just stuff like that. It's great. And the injury thing, though, what Stephanie mentions is really important for running. Running is a sport where you can, because you know, if you're doing 200K a month, I think you're doing 60,000 foot strikes per foot in that month. So any little issue with biomechanics is going to creep in and probably cause some problems at some point. So really important to work with health professionals and talk to other runners and get orthotics if you need that, and vary your workouts and listen to your body and take time off and don't overdo it, and so gradually build up. I have an entire chapter on injury, including overtraining injury, which is a big thing, where they're not mechanically injured, but their body is getting pushed too hard. They're stressing themselves way too much, and then it starts shutting down a bit. So they have terms for that, and you know, there's different overlapping conditions there, but one is called just overtraining, and one is called REDS, relative energy deficiency syndrome. There's paradoxical training syndrome, which is a similar thing, and there's hypogonadal training syndrome, which is I believe affects more males. But the basic idea is they've just pushed themselves too hard, and their body just starts pushing back, and because they're stressed too much, it's distress at that point. So I have a whole discussion about that. It's really important for people not to overdo it, to you know, just be careful and pace themselves and be gradual.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for sharing that, Mark, and also to Stephanie as well. And this book sounds like such a fantastic book for every single one of you to get it out there as well and understand, you know, the challenges that and the highs and lows that Mark and Stephanie have been through, but more importantly as well is the tips on how they got to this stage. And of course, it's that connection or that bond between father and daughter as well. So Mark, where can the audience, where can the listeners get hold of the book? How can they get hold of it? Of course, we will share it at the end of the podcast as well, or the interview. We'll share it on a link. But if you can tell us quickly, how can we get hold of the book?
Sure. So if they use that link, it'll connect to Amazon or Apple or other retailers. The book's available ebook or paperback. It's called, or if they just type in run daughter, run father on their favorite retailer like Amazon, it'll pop up Run Daughter, Run Father. It'll pop up with a description of the book, my author description, and then they'll see the ebook or the paperback that they can click on if they want to purchase it.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Mark. So to all the listeners out there, I suggest go and get yourself a copy of this book. I'm going to definitely get an ebook for myself and read it as well. But Mark, Stephanie, thanks once again for inspiring the listeners and the audiences. I'm really grateful that you guys could make the time to get on here, even on a Saturday as well. So thanks for listening. To all the audience out there. Listen to this podcast, like it, share it with your audience as well. And I'd like to thank you once again for listening to us. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Stephanie, and have yourself an awesome weekend. Cheers.
Thank you, Noah.
Thanks.